Hello, everyone. This is Miss Spalding, and I am here to just give an update on our read strategy that we have been implementing since July. Just a couple of things. We have been doing a couple of walkthroughs, and we have noticed that a lot of us are not using the actual template, but that's okay. I have provided everyone with a poster size template of our read strategy, and our read strategy is R3 EAD2. R3 is for our reading three times, E is for explain, A is for analyze, and D is for determine and do. So, what I want to do is be able to give you a relevant example as well so that you can make sure that you are implementing it correctly. And we will also have a chance to do a mini PD where if you have any other questions or if you want to tailor it even more to your instruction, or you just need a little bit more assistance, you'll be able to do that as well. Today we're going to focus on introduction to team sports as our example, and we're going to use the template. Now, you've all been gifted, like I said, a poster where you have some empty boxes. And the reason why I left them empty is because I want you to be able to tailor it to your instruction. You might use them differently each day, but hopefully, this gives you just a little bit more of an idea of how you can use it in your classroom. So the first thing is our read strategy, as you see. And notice that I went ahead and kind of tailored it to what we're going to be talking about today. Like I said, we're doing team sports, and our reading is actually going to be based off of the Olympics. Now, this would be something good to do with students simply because it is current and it's what's happening, what they're watching when they go home. It's the hot topic that is going on in the world right now. So you want to make it relevant and authentic to their learning experience. So, what I've already done from a teacher's perspective is that I've actually went ahead and chunked this information by giving them numbered paragraphs. Now, this is something that we discussed in our PD, but just to kind of see it in real time kind of will help. The reason why I chunked it or numbered it in each paragraph is just to be able to reference it when you're annotating with your students. I would suggest that you go ahead and number it either with them or ahead of time. That just allows them to be able to, for everyone to have the same numbers in the same paragraphs so that when you are referencing it, when you are modeling your annotation, it's just easier for them to go back to and quickly reference. So you might say, okay, let's look at paragraph 5, the second sentence. That kind of helps with them just being able to go back and reference it. Now, you can use whatever article that you feel fit for your content area. So if you already have content that's already there, you have articles that you've been using and that you just want to implement the read strategy with, I suggest that you go ahead and do that by using what you already have and then applying it to the new strategy. So notice that this one just goes through everything for the Olympics, gives the background of the gymnast, then winning the gold medal, and how Simone Biles overcomes her fears and goes out there and helps the team go to gold. So that is what this is about. Now, based on our strategy, our first thing is to read three times. So first you will have students read along at their desk silently, don't have to mark anything. The second thing that you will have students do is to read aloud. Now you can choose a student to read it aloud with the class. You might even assign paragraphs for them to read, which will also make this go by a little quicker. So you might have Johnny read paragraph 1, Sarah read paragraph 2, and Timothy read paragraph 3. So you already designate those jobs for the students in the classroom, and you can pick those at random. They can raise their hand and also decide if they want to read. You also can model this. I do suggest that as a teacher, you probably do the first two paragraphs or however long the reading is, or do the first paragraph to kind of set that tone for what you want your classroom to sound like when they are reading aloud, to get them comfortable as well. And the best thing about being a teacher is that you get to preview all this information ahead of giving it to your students. So always be sure to preview the reading before you give it to your students. The third reading would be read to annotate. And read to annotate can mean a couple of things. You can determine what you want students to highlight. You can also tell them what you want them to underline. You can tell them if you want things to be written in the margin. But I really want you to focus on, when you're looking at the annotation, look for vocabulary that they might know, and also look for vocabulary that they do not understand, because that will tell you where your students are and how you can move them forward. Also, look for misconceptions that they might find in each paragraph to kind of help you with that annotation. But just know this area right here that says the third one, which is read to annotate. Start thinking about ways that you can really put in those annotations. And I'm going to also suggest that you have them written out as to what you want them to do. So, some visuals showing them exactly what annotation means. Am I underlining all vocabulary terms in the reading? That should be explicitly written somewhere, either on your board or in the actual strategy itself. So be sure to make sure that you actually put it into your template or how you're giving instructions. Because sometimes we can give verbal instructions, but it's always good for students who are visual learners to also have a visual to see exactly what it is, and to also reference so that you don't have to continue to repeat yourself when giving instructions. So after I have students read it alone, read aloud, popcorn reading, and then we read to annotate, be sure to also model your annotation, model those strategies that you want, or the structures that you want your students to be able to do. So if it is to underline vocabulary, make sure when you're going into the reading, you're actually going through the reading and you're underlining with them, so they can see exactly the process. I'm not saying underline the entire article with them, but chunk it. So you might just do paragraph 2 together, and then paragraph 4, 5, and 6 they're doing on their own. Or you might do paragraph 7 together, and then paragraph 8 and 9 you're going to do with your neighbor, and then we're going to discuss it. And then paragraph 10 and 11 you're going to do on your own. So there's so many ways that you can chunk it, but you also can do annotation. But be sure to model your annotation whenever you're doing it, so that students are doing exactly what you're asking them to do. The second part of this is explaining ideas. When we explain ideas, we want to be sure that we're writing the ideas. Either for this activity, I would have students write the ideas in the margin of the paragraph. What do you wonder? So when they're going through the reading, around this area is where I would possibly have them write something that they might wonder. They might not have a wonder for each paragraph, which is perfectly fine. Tailor it to your instruction. But they might have one maybe off of paragraph 8, so that they just kind of write into the side exactly what they wonder about that paragraph. Do they wonder where Suni Lee went to school? Maybe they wonder what her being routine was and why she was struggling with it. So that's something that they can interpret by going through the actual text. The second part of the explaining ideas is I put a turn and talk. So that might be a chance for students to turn and talk to their neighbors. So I might have a question about a certain paragraph. So I'm going to turn and talk to my neighbor and ask and see what kind of questions they also might have had. That would allow them to kind of start having those higher order questions come about. And they might also have the same questions. So that will be good for you to kind of discover as you go through your instruction. The third piece is to share aloud. So after I've talked to my neighbor about, first I've already wondered things about my paragraphs. Second, I turn and talk to my neighbor about the paragraphs and the things that I wonder to see if we have anything similar. And then thirdly, we share it aloud. So then now maybe me or my partner will share it to the teacher and explain what we have decided, or what we have, if we want to explain our ideas. So hopefully that makes just a little bit more clarity about the explaining your ideas. The third piece to our strategy is to analyze. When we talk about analyzing, you really want students to have those thought-provoking questions. Now, there's two ways that you can really do this, but for this example, what you've noticed is that I have one question there that says create a question from the article that you have. So they've already thought through these ideas in the wondering piece, in the explaining of the explaining of ideas in part 2. But in part 3 of actually analyzing the questions or the reading, they should go in and actually make higher order thinking questions from this. Now, if your students seem to struggle and don't know what that is, well, I pulled some for you. So if I had to do the analyze, I might even give them some questions that I want them to analyze. So these are from the article. It allows them to go back into the reading, but it also allows them to have a thought provoking moment where they can think about what the answer might be, what challenges are found in the reading, and they have to go a little bit deeper with the text. So you might just want to give this out. You can also give this out as a template on its own. And you can use a single point rubric to actually grade this. So let's say that you get all the way down to analyze and you notice that you really want to give students the questions ahead of time. So allow them to go ahead and use the question or give them three questions, allow them to answer those three questions, and maybe the fourth one is for them to create a question using the single point rubric that was given to you. You could just score analyze for the day because you've already given them the questions and you really want to see what they get back. So that's a suggestion that you can use when doing the third part of the strategy. And last but not least is our do section. And notice here is what I put for a determine and do. This is just a quick activity to allow students to kind of make connections and for them to come up with some summary. So kind of see where their writing skills are if I was to use this in my classroom. The first thing I put on here is to have an activity for students to do. Create a vocabulary web using 6 terms from a sport of your choice. So let's say that they choose track and they have about 6 terms that are track related and they have to make them all connect. That's a piece that still is relevant to our reading, but it also goes into our introduction to team sports. So then you would have them maybe write the term and then determine what the definition is, and then they have to make it connect to the next term. So I might have, let's say, passing the baton, or baton is one of my terms if I'm using track. And then I make a connection as to usually pass the baton during this race. And then you would explicitly say what the race is that they're running to while you would use the baton. And then explain what the race is. So that is our ways that you can actually make the connection. The second part is in your final summary, explain the importance of working as a team. That kind of just sums up the whole lesson, the importance of working as a team, working to make sure you're getting the goal done, also supporting each other as you go through a sport, whether it feels like you're alone, but you're working together. That's even like golf. Golf, everybody has their own score. However, at the end of the day, when you're playing in tournaments or you're playing in matches, that means that all 4 scores are actually being totaled up to see who actually wins. So you're still working individually, but you're working as a team. And those are things that you could do if you were teaching team sports or if you just wanted to use this as an example. So there's always a bigger lesson within our smaller lessons that we give. So the first thing is to pull a reading, pull something that you can give with students that they can go in and actually analyze. The second piece of this is that you want to start tailoring your read strategy to fit the goal that you want for your students to actually what is the outcome that you want from your students. So be sure to tailor this to your instruction. You have a poster, so you want to be sure to put that poster up somewhere in your classroom, either on your whiteboard, either on your bulletin board, wherever, so students can actually analyze it. If you are a artiste, I would say actually go ahead and make your own anchor chart, make a flip chart, something that you can put out often so students can reference, and you also can change when you need it to fit a certain outcome. These are all things that you can do within your classroom. Hopefully this made this a little bit more, giving you a little bit more understanding on how to use the read strategy in your classroom. But remember, you do want some visual for students to reference when you're giving the instruction. All right, that's been your bite-sized moment for today, and have a good one.